No one ever tells you that waking up at 3 a.m. is more than just a passing annoyance. They dismiss it as just part of getting older. But what if I told you that this specific wake-up call is a profound message from your body, a secret language it uses to tell you what it needs, and ignoring it could mean missing a critical opportunity to improve not just your sleep, but your entire well-being. Welcome, my friends. Professor Vitalis here with your daily dose of wisdom and wellness, where science and experience walk hand in hand. Today, we are embarking on a journey into the quiet hours of the night, into that specific moment around 3 a.m. when so many of us find ourselves wide awake, staring into the darkness. We will uncover the 5 primary reasons this happens as we age, but I urge you to stay with me until the very end. The final reason we will discuss is the one most often ignored, yet it is arguably the most powerful. It connects your sleep directly to your life story, your deepest emotions, and the wisdom you have accumulated over the decades. Understanding it can be the key that unlocks not only restful nights, but a more profound sense of peace and self-acceptance in your waking hours. So let's begin. Have you ever had that experience? The quiet darkness of your bedroom, the world still and silent, and yet your mind is buzzing. You lie there, gazing at shadows on the ceiling, questioning what could possibly be wrong with your body or your mind. Let me reassure you, the truth is that this is an incredibly common phenomenon, far more than you might imagine, and it is absolutely not a random quirk or a simple, inevitable consequence of aging. In this discussion, we are going to explore 5 powerful, interconnected reasons why so many people, as they journey through life, begin to wake up at this specific time. And more importantly, we'll uncover what these early awakenings are truly trying to tell you. Each of these reasons reveals something much deeper about the intricate dance between your body, your health, and the sum of your life's experiences. By the time we conclude our talk, I promise you will look at your sleep patterns in an entirely new light. These are not superficial explanations you might find in a pamphlet. No, we are diving deep into the real-world science of our bodies. We are grounding our understanding in the bedrock of physiology, psychology, and the specific, elegant rhythms of the aging process that most people are never taught about. We will speak of the subtle yet significant hormonal tides that change over the years. We will explore the fascinating shifts in our internal sleep clocks, the underlying health concerns that whisper to us in the night, and even the emotional and social currents that quietly shape the architecture of our rest. And all of this will be presented with the honesty, respect, and supportive encouragement that recognizes the incredible journey you have already traveled. So if you've ever found yourself awake just before the dawn, asking that simple, frustrating question, why? Then you have come to the right place. What you are about to learn may not only help you sleep more soundly, but also grant you a deeper understanding and acceptance of the incredible machine that is your body. Let us begin with our first reason, the natural decline in melatonin production. This is one of the most fundamental and scientifically documented reasons why an older person might find themselves awake in the middle of the night, particularly around that 3 a.m. mark. It all comes down to a natural, gradual reduction in the hormone melatonin. Think of melatonin not just as a sleep hormone, but as the master conductor of your body's internal orchestra, signaling to every cell when it is time to quiet down and when it is time to perform. It governs our sleep-wake cycle, what scientists call our circadian rhythm, and it is often referred to as the body's internal clock. Its role is absolutely pivotal in helping you not only fall asleep, but crucially, to remain asleep throughout the night. When you were younger, your brain's pineal gland most likely produced a robust, steady supply of melatonin every single evening, like a deep, consistent river flowing through your system. This generous supply allowed you to enjoy long stretches of deep, uninterrupted, and restorative sleep. But as the decades pass, the production of this vital hormone naturally begins to wane. The river becomes more like a gentle stream. This single change can have a profound and noticeable impact on the quality and structure of your sleep. You might still find it relatively easy to drift off in the evening, especially if you've had a full day or a relaxing end to your evening. But as the night progresses, By the time 2, 3, or 4 a.m. rolls around, your melatonin levels may have dipped below the critical threshold needed to keep you submerged in sleep. Suddenly, you find yourself awake. It's not a noise, not a bad dream, but a gentle internal stirring as your brain gradually returns to a state of wakefulness, simply because it is no longer receiving a strong enough stay-asleep signal from its own chemistry. It is so important to understand this. It does not mean you are doing anything wrong. It is not a sign that your body is failing you. It is a simple, predictable, and manageable change in your internal biochemistry that comes with a life fully lived. What's more, your environment can either help or hinder this delicate process. Even the smallest sources of light, a street lamp filtering through a gap in the curtains, the blinking LED on your alarm clock, a sliver of light from the hallway, can further suppress your already dwindling melatonin production. As we age, our eyes and brain become more sensitive to these environmental cues, making that 3 a.m. awakening all the more likely and all the more frustrating. Let's consider the story of Harold, a man of 72. For his entire life, he prided himself on being a great sleeper. But recently, he found himself waking up like clockwork around 3:15 a.m. every night. He didn't feel anxious or worried. He just felt awake, as if his body had decided it was time to start the day. When he finally learned that this wasn't some personal failing, but a natural part of the aging process tied directly to melatonin, it was a revelation. He stopped fighting his body and blaming himself. Instead, he began to partner with it. He invested in blackout curtains to make his bedroom a true sanctuary of darkness. He made a new rule: no screens for at least an hour before bed, opting for a book under a warm amber-colored light instead. He even started taking a brief, gentle stroll after dinner to help reinforce his natural circadian cues. These simple, intentional changes sent a powerful signal to his body. It is still nighttime. And while he still wakes up early on occasion, he has learned to work in harmony with his body's new rhythm, not in constant opposition to it. This understanding can change everything. When you realize that these awakenings are not your fault, but the result of a natural chemical shift, you can move from frustration to compassion and begin to support your sleep rather than resenting your body. This leads us directly to our second powerful reason: the gradual shift in our circadian rhythm, a phenomenon known as advanced sleep phase. Here is another critical piece of the puzzle. It's not just that the amount of our sleep hormone changes, but the very timing of our internal biological clock naturally shifts forward with age. This is what sleep scientists call an advanced sleep phase. In simple terms, your entire 24-hour cycle begins to creep earlier. You may start to feel a wave of drowsiness long before your old bedtime, and consequently, you find yourself waking up much earlier in the morning, often well before you'd like. Have you noticed yourself starting to doze off during a favorite evening movie? Or perhaps you wake with the sunrise, without any need for an alarm clock, even on days when you'd planned to sleep in. This isn't just a matter of changing habits, it is a shift deeply rooted in our biology, and it tends to become more pronounced with each passing year. During our youth and middle age, our body's biological rhythms are typically synchronized to a later bedtime and a later wake-up time. This feels like a natural rhythm that aligns with the sun and a busy social or work life. However, as the decades go by, that internal clock begins to tick a little faster. The entire sleep window naturally slides forward. You might find yourself falling asleep at 9 p.m. or even earlier without any intention of doing so. This means that by 3 a.m., your body has already completed a full 6-hour sleep cycle, and from a biological standpoint, it's ready to wake up. This is precisely why you can wake up in the dead of night feeling completely rested and refreshed, even though the world outside is still cloaked in darkness. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that your body is now operating on a new, earlier schedule. Imagine your internal clock has been gently nudged forward a minute or two every single year. Over time, that adds up. It's not dangerous, but it can certainly be inconvenient if your lifestyle, your family obligations, or your personal desires don't align with this new biological timetable. There's a psychological component to this as well. Many older adults find themselves in a quieter, more peaceful living environment, perhaps spending more time alone. This very quietness amplifies the body's natural signals for relaxation and rest. When the hustle and bustle of a career, raising children, and a busy social life are no longer present to pull your attention outward and delay your bedtime, your body begins its wind-down process much earlier. If you're no longer working a full-time job or sticking to a rigid external schedule, the absence of these powerful time cues, like meetings, commutes, or evening plans with friends, can allow your internal earlier rhythm to take command. Consider Charles, 68 and newly retired. He began eating dinner around 5:30 p.m., would watch an hour or so of television, and then found himself heading to bed by 9 p.m. By 3 a.m., his body had finished its work for the night and was ready to go. He felt no anxiety or stress, just alert. At first, he worried he was developing insomnia, but then he learned about the advanced sleep phase and realized his sleep wasn't broken. It had simply been rescheduled by his own biology. Charles started to make small, strategic adjustments to his evening. He began to read a book under a warm light to extend his evening, took a light walk after dinner, and made a point to call his daughter for a chat before turning in. These small social and sensory signals helped to gently stretch his sleep window, pushing his natural wake-up time a little closer to the morning. The result was fewer 3 a.m. awakenings and a greater sense of harmony with his life's rhythm. This natural shift is an experience so many of us face, yet it's so rarely discussed. Acknowledging it can lift a heavy burden of guilt or confusion, allowing you to approach your body's changes with compassion and intelligence. So if you wake at 3 a.m. feeling completely rested, it may just be that your body is living on its new schedule. Once you recognize this, you can begin to build a daily routine that supports your total well-being. If you are still with me and finding this information valuable, please let me know by writing Reason 2 in the comments below. It truly helps me to know you're engaged. And if you haven't yet joined our community, I encourage you to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss our new discussions. Your support is what allows us to continue creating this helpful and inspiring content. Now, let's continue. Reason number 3, physical discomfort and health-related sleep interruptions. This is another incredibly common, yet often subtle reason for waking around 3 a.m. Understanding it frees you from guilt and confusion, allowing you to approach your body's changes with greater compassion and wisdom. So if you wake at 3 a.m. feeling fully rested, perhaps it's just your body living on its own, new and perfectly valid schedule. Once you recognize this, you can begin to craft a daily routine that truly supports your well-being. Reason number 3, the quiet language of physical discomfort. A third, very common reason for these pre-dawn awakenings lies in your body's response to physical discomfort or underlying health issues that become particularly pronounced in the stillness of the night. As we journey through life, the likelihood of encountering chronic conditions or subtle, yet-to-be-diagnosed symptoms increases. Many of these conditions have a knack for disrupting sleep not with a sudden loud alarm, but with a quiet, persistent whisper. They creep in silently. An aching joint, a full bladder, a sudden twinge in your back, and that whisper is often just enough to pull you from the depths of sleep. Conditions like arthritis, for example, can make remaining in one position for several hours increasingly uncomfortable. You may not feel significant pain when you first drift off, but after a few hours of stillness, the inflammation and stiffness can build, sending a pain signal strong enough to wake you. For other people, nocturnal acid reflux can be the culprit, especially if dinner was eaten late or you lay down too soon after a meal. The horizontal position allows stomach acid to travel up the esophagus, causing a burning discomfort that can easily rouse you from sleep. Even seemingly minor issues can become major sleep disruptors in the early morning hours when your body's defenses are down and your sensitivity is heightened. Things like dry mouth, leg cramps, or even a slight change in the room's temperature can trigger a light awakening. However, one of the single most prevalent physical reasons, particularly for men, to wake at 3 a.m. is the need to visit the bathroom. This is known as nocturia. With age, the bladder wall can lose some of its elasticity, meaning it can't hold as much as it used to. Simultaneously, the body may produce less of the antidiuretic hormone, ADH, that normally concentrates urine and reduces its production during the night. The combination means the signal to urinate comes sooner and more often. During the bustling daytime, with a mind occupied by 1,000 distractions, you might barely notice this increased frequency. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, in a dark and silent room, that sensation becomes impossible to ignore. And once you are up and moving, even for a short walk to the bathroom, your body has already begun to transition from deep rest to a state of light alertness, making the journey back to sleep significantly more challenging. Then there is the crucial factor of medications, which many of us rely on for our health and well-being. Many common prescriptions for blood pressure, heart conditions, or pain management can have side effects that subtly interfere with sleep. Diuretics, for instance, are designed to increase urination. Beta blockers can sometimes alter sleep architecture and suppress melatonin. Some antidepressants can cause restlessness. You might not even make the connection that it's your medication disturbing your sleep until it's pointed out to you or until you begin to meticulously track your daily habits and symptoms. Let's look at the case of Eleanor, a 76-year-old woman who had always been a light sleeper. For the past year, she was waking up consistently around 3:30 a.m. For months, she just chalked it up to getting older. But after a conversation with her physician, she discovered that one of her new medications was affecting her body's hydration levels, leading to more frequent nighttime trips to the bathroom. With her doctor's guidance, she adjusted the timing of her medication and incorporated a few other lifestyle tweaks. Now, she wakes up much less frequently, and when she does, she finds it far easier to drift back to sleep. It is so important to remember that these physical awakenings do not mean your body is failing you. On the contrary, it is a sign that your body is still working beautifully. It is reacting, signaling, and adapting. These signals are your body's way of guiding you toward better self-care, more mindful health decisions, and a deeper trust in your own physical wisdom. Waking at 3 a.m. might feel like an inconvenience, but sometimes it is a quiet invitation to listen, to investigate, and to make the small changes that can lead to better health and more profound rest. Reason number 4, how daily habits reshape your nights. A fourth powerful, yet frequently overlooked reason you might be waking in the pre-dawn hours is rooted in your established daily habits. I'm talking about the small, seemingly insignificant routines and choices that, over time, can subtly yet profoundly re-engineer your internal rhythms. As life evolves, many of us naturally adopt new patterns. We might start eating dinner earlier, our evenings may become quieter, and our days might involve less physical exertion. These changes, each one minor on its own, accumulate and send a new set of signals to the body, essentially telling it, the day is ending sooner, which means the night starts earlier, and therefore, waking up should also happen earlier. When your days become more tranquil, especially after a transition like retirement, your body no longer receives the same strong external time cues or zeitgebers that it once relied upon. The daily commute, the intellectual demands of a job, the structured social interactions, these all served as powerful anchors for your sleep-wake cycle. Without these stimuli, that cycle can begin to drift forward. A quiet, dimly lit evening, free from mental or physical stimulation, can naturally encourage your brain to begin producing melatonin earlier than it used to. Before you know it, you're nodding off, and the clock has barely struck 9. Of course, when you go to bed that early, your body simply completes its necessary sleep cycles and is ready to go much earlier, waking you in the quiet, pre-dawn hours around 3 a.m. There is also a very subtle but important link between your meal timing and your sleep quality. While eating an early dinner is generally a healthy practice, it can sometimes lead to a drop in your blood sugar levels during the night, a state known as nocturnal hypoglycemia. This dip might not be dramatic enough to make you feel consciously hungry, but it is enough to trigger the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which are designed to raise blood sugar, but also have the unfortunate side effect of waking you up. Similarly, the caffeine you consumed, even as early as lunchtime, can linger in your system much longer than you'd expect. especially as your metabolism naturally slows with age. This can make your sleep lighter and more fragile, leaving you more susceptible to being woken by any minor disturbance. Consider Walter, a 74-year-old who had recently retired. Gradually, his days became less structured and his evenings more relaxed. He started eating dinner at 5 p.m., would often doze off in his armchair during the evening news, and was typically in bed before 9 p.m. Without even realizing it, he had shifted his entire daily schedule several hours earlier. Soon enough, he began waking up around 3:09 a.m., confused as to why he felt so completely awake before the birds had even started their morning song. By taking a careful look at his day, Walter started to make small, intentional changes. He added a short walk in the bright afternoon sun, made a point of reading a book under a good lamp in the evening, and consciously avoided napping after dinner. While eating an early dinner is generally a healthy practice, it can sometimes lead to a drop in your blood sugar levels during the night, a state known as nocturnal hypoglycemia. This dip might not be dramatic enough to make you feel consciously hungry, but it is enough to trigger the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which are designed to raise blood sugar, but also have the unfortunate side effect of waking you up. Similarly, the caffeine you consumed, even as early as lunchtime, can linger in your system much longer than you'd expect, especially as your metabolism naturally slows with age. This can make your sleep lighter and more fragile, leaving you more susceptible to being woken by any minor disturbance. Consider Walter, a 74-year-old who had recently retired. Gradually, his days became less structured and his evenings more relaxed. He started eating dinner at 5 p.m., would often doze off in his armchair during the evening news, and was typically in bed before 9 p.m. Without even realizing it, he had shifted his entire daily schedule several hours earlier. Soon enough, he began waking up around 3:09 a.m., confused as to why he felt so completely awake before the birds had even started their morning song. By taking a careful look at his day, Walter started to make small, intentional changes. He added a short walk in the bright afternoon sun, made a point of reading a book under a good lamp in the evening, and consciously avoided napping after dinner. You may find yourself lying in the dark, not because of physical pain or external noise, but because your mind is gently sifting through old memories, unfinished conversations, or a low-grade worry you weren't even aware you were carrying. This type of restlessness is often different from the sharp, frantic anxiety of youth. It can be quieter, more contemplative. It might feel like a subtle background hum, a feeling that something inside you is not quite settled, even if you can't put a name to it. When the mind is no longer occupied with the demands of the external world, it naturally turns inward. It may wander back to past relationships, to choices made long ago, to losses that still ache, to words left unsaid. Because your body is no longer sprinting from one task to the next, there is now a space, an opening, for these thoughts and feelings to make themselves heard. It is also vital to acknowledge the role that solitude can play here. For many of us, our social circles naturally narrow over time. Children grow up and move away, friends become busy with their own lives, and daily routines change. During the day, the house may feel bright and full of life, but at night, a deep quiet descends. And with that quiet can come an awareness of an inner emotional space, a sense of loneliness. This loneliness doesn't always feel like a heavy sadness. Sometimes, it's just a simple desire for connection, a gentle longing for someone to talk to in the stillness of the night. Let us think about Gloria, an 80-year-old widow. Her days are full and pleasant. She tends her garden, talks to her grandchildren on the phone, and enjoys her favorite television shows. But around 3 a.m., she often finds herself awake. Her mind drifts back to moments spent with her late husband, or to worries about her family that she keeps buried deep inside during the day. At first, she was convinced she had a sleep problem, but over time, she came to a beautiful realization. It wasn't her sleep that was the issue. It was her heart asking to be heard. To support herself, Gloria began a simple yet powerful practice. She placed a small journal by her bed. When she wakes up now, she sometimes jots down whatever is on her mind. Nothing elaborate, just a few honest thoughts. She also created gentle evening rituals, like listening to calming music or writing a short note to a friend. These small acts of reflection and connection gave her emotions a soft place to land, which calmed her mind and made it easier to return to sleep. The truth is, the human heart does not operate on a strict schedule. It remembers what it wants to remember. It asks the questions it needs to ask, and sometimes it chooses to do this at 3 o'clock in the morning when everything else is silent. This is not a flaw. It is a sign of your depth. If you awaken and feel contemplative, perhaps it is your own wisdom, earned over a lifetime, asking to be acknowledged. You have lived through immense joys and profound losses, and these experiences shape not just your memories, but the very essence of who you are. Instead of treating these awakenings as a problem to be solved, try approaching them with curiosity and kindness. What is your mind trying to tell you? What is asking for your attention? What part of you simply needs a little more gentleness, even in the dark? Sometimes the deepest rest comes not from ignoring these moments, but from honoring them. And in doing so, you may find not only more peaceful sleep, but a more profound understanding of yourself at this stage of your life. As we conclude our time together, take a moment in stillness and reflect on what we've discussed. What resonated most deeply with you? Was it the idea of a shifting internal clock, the quiet cues from your physical health, or perhaps something deeper, an emotional rhythm that only makes itself known when the world goes quiet? Each of these 5 reasons offers you a new lens through which to view your early morning awakenings, and not a single one of them suggests that you are broken or that something is wrong. In fact, every single one of these reasons demonstrates just how profoundly your body and mind are still working, still responding, still adapting as you navigate this beautiful chapter of your life. There's a quiet power in understanding what your body is trying to tell you, especially in those gentle pre-dawn hours. Instead of seeing that 3 a.m. awakening as a frustrating interruption, you can begin to see it as a message, a gentle signal reminding you to listen to your needs, to your habits, to your heart. You are not alone in this experience, and you are certainly not the only one searching for answers. But with understanding comes empowerment, and with empowerment comes the freedom to make small but meaningful changes that support deeper sleep, a greater sense of comfort, and a stronger connection to the beautiful rhythms of your own body. If you recognized yourself in even one of these reasons, know this: you are not just getting older, you are evolving. And with that evolution comes the opportunity to rest more mindfully, to care for yourself more gently, and to meet each new morning with a little more understanding and peace. Knowledge only works when you apply it. I'm Professor Vitalis. Stay curious, stay healthy, and never stop learning.